For this tutorial, we'll be covering how to complete homework 4, the lactate and ventilation threshold. So, to start in Excel, it's question 2. We're supposed to create a graph with lactate values and ventilatory values as ventilatory ratios. So the first thing we need to do is calculate this VE VO2 and VE CO2. So post was probably taken 3 minutes after. I'm going to move this post data up. And then I'll repeat the same here. And then you don't have to worry about changing the other numbers because we'll just stop our graph there. So first, we're going to take VE and divide it by VO2. They're already in the same units. And we're going to do the same thing for VE divided by VCO2. And then we can copy down. I'm copying so it's even with this. Control C. Double check. And both look good. So now we've already calculated VE and VCO2. And now we just need to graph it. So to start, we're going to take these 3 columns and insert a scatter plot. And it's very important for this one that you use that scatter plot. Okay, now if you look at the question, we also need to add those lactate values. To do that, we're going to right click and go down to select data. And we're going to add, our series name is going to be lactate. Our X values are time. And our Y values are going to be the actual lactate values. And now you see we have 3 separate lines. That lactate's included. I'm going to click that lactate data and go in and add that secondary axis that we have used plenty of times now. So I forgot to move that post data up for the lactate as well. Make sure you do that. So I'm going to double click on this again. Go back into select data and edit this data. So it also includes 11. And so we see that we now have all of the data here. And so now we'll go in and do what we typically do, adjust those axes. I adjusted the units to 3 since that's what our lactate readings are at. And then we can go in and adjust here. So we never go below 1. And I'm going to leave it at 3.5. You can see the data pretty well. You could still adjust a little bit. I could do 1.25. And 3.25 if I wanted. It automatically did that. You could leave it at 3.5. Whichever works for you. Then you'd add your titles. Remember that this is just ventilatory ratios. If it's a ratio, it means there is no units. So then you just move this over to your Word document and add that figure description. So you will repeat this process for the next person. And then you're going to determine at what percent VO2 max does LT occur and what percent VO2 max does VT occur. So here in LT, we see that there's a very sudden spike between minute 12 and 15. Up here, you do have the VO2 max from the individual. This is from their VO2 max test that was done as a previous lab. And then I said minute 12 to 15 is when we see this drastic spike. So I'm actually going to do a range for this one. So between minute 12, VO2 at minute 12 divided by the max. And then I'm going to also do it for minute 15. So I know that looks like it's a pretty big range, but because we only did 1 or 3 minute increments of lactate, it's a little bit different to find it. And I'm just going to hit percent signs. And then ventilatory threshold, we see that they come close to each other, they stay close, and then all of a sudden they cross and start to diverge. That point after they diverge is what we want. So they cross at 13, really diverge by 14. So at 14 minutes, they're at 79%. So we see that they really are occurring at the same time. They're occurring in that same 3 minute window. That's really what you're looking for. If one's occurring down here and the other one's in this 3 minute increment, then they're not occurring at the same time unless the VO2s say different. Otherwise, if they're occurring in that same 3 minutes, they're probably occurring at the same time or roughly the same time. Then you're just going to explain your results, do the exact same thing for your other subject, and you're all set to complete this homework.